Welcome to Damn Good Content Podcast. I'm your host, Shelby Clement. From corporate world to entrepreneurship, I own a marketing agency, SCM, and I'm the founder of Damn Good Marketing Live. This podcast is all about digital marketing, cutting the fluff, and keeping it real with you. If you're ready, let's freaking get it. Welcome back to Damn Good Content Podcast. I'm your host, Shelby Clement, and today I have someone that I've followed for a really long time on social, Trevor Crump. I love exactly how he shows up authentically and just as himself, all of his routine. He's definitely a family guy. He's married with 3 kids. So it's really right up my alley of how to have an online business and still make time for your family. Thank you so much for being here, Trevor. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the honor of being on the Damn Good Content Podcast. So
yes. I know I've been watching you for a while. I've seen you speak. That sounded really creepy, but it's fine. It's online. So it's fine. I say weird things, but I want you to give us a little background of you because I know you were in corporate. You're an entrepreneur now. You have a couple things going on. You're a co-founder of a jewelry business as well. You'll have a podcast. You have Bestie Media. Like, give us like the lowdown of who you are and what you do.
Yeah. I'm a dad of 3, been married for 15 years this year. So not there yet, but I'll be married 15 years this year. I own a few different business, but I'm a guy who never wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like I never wanted that responsibility my entire life.
Yeah.
And now I'm a guy who owns a couple different businesses. So the first business that I launched was a golf company called Asher Golf. And then I launched a performance marketing agency called Bestie Media. Shortly after, we launched a women's jewelry line called Lord Jewelry. And then we recently launched a software company called Bestie, which is like a survey software to get to know your customers better. We call it zero party or first party data to gather that information about your customers, who they are, what they do, what they like, and why they do it.
Yeah.
So that's me.
I love that. But that's so funny because I feel like I had a conversation with someone else recently. They say, I didn't want to be an entrepreneur, and then boom, like it just kind of like fell in your lap. So like at what point or turning point did it happen and you were like, well, I guess I'm just going to do this?
I actually kind of love this story. So I might like take a little time on this here for a second.
Okay.
But yeah, so I grew up in a household where very traditional home, very conservative home, which was, you go to school, you get a job, you take care of your family. All things that I still to this day very, very much believe, I want to support my family and that's my number one thing. And I had an amazing dad who did just that my entire life, pretty much up until I was graduated from high school. I did not exactly know what my dad did. I just knew he had the same job his whole life.
Right.
In fact, when anyone asked me what my dad does, I always told everyone he was a locksmith. And then to come to find out, he was actually the president of a lock company.
Oh.
And so I was underselling, not that there's anything wrong with being a locksmith, but that's what I told people, even as a high schooler. And so I did that. I always knew I wanted to be into marketing. So I went to school, I got an internship, I went and got my master's degree, I got more job, and then I landed the corporate job, had a family, have kids, taking care of it. And in early 2017, the company that I was working for, I was a VP of marketing for a $250 million company here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Growing, and my growth trajectory from a career was just like, it was everywhere I thought it could have been, Right. And all of a sudden I was in a meeting at 30 people, and I was in a meeting and I was conducting this meeting, and a group of about 20 FBI agents rushed into our office. So 20 FBI agents in their jackets, they have their guns, they have their bulletproof vests. They come in and they're telling everybody to get up, leave their phones, leave their computers. And I just see, people boom, 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 getting up, and I'm in a corner office, like far away from the elevators where I'm seeing this happening. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And they come rushing into that room and they go straight to me. They don't talk to anybody. They go straight to me because it looked like I was like an executive of the company because I happened to be in my CMO's office who was out of town. So I was conducting a meeting in this like big gaudy corner glass office. And and they take my computer, they take my phone, they bring me down to this room, they start questioning me. And we had over 1,000 employees, and in that office there was probably 500 of us. Half the
Yeah.
office was in that office, and then the other was spread out through a few other offices. And so they just put us all in this room and pretty much said, "Hey, like, we are seizing everything right now. We can't really tell you what's going on." So we had no idea what was going on. But to make a long story short, when you get raided by the FBI, the first thing that happens is all banks, all credit lines that you have get pretty much just halted. So our credit line gets stopped. So we essentially can't pay anything. And I was in charge of marketing, and so our marketing budget was $3 to $5 million a month we were spending on ads and all this kind of stuff. Not to mention what the content team was doing. And so our lives pretty much just get like, hey, you got to come into work, but you can't really do anything. And we're trying to figure out what to do. And everybody's like, what the heck is going on? Is this legit? What's going on? And within a couple of days, the company, like upper management comes to me and says, hey, you got to let go of half your team. Like, we can't afford to pay people because we don't have cash,
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what does that mean? We have to let go half of our team? And they're like, well, you just this is pretty much how much money you have to get rid of. And so it wasn't like, hey, get rid of your worst performers. It was like, this is the number, you got to get rid of them. And so me and my CMO, you talk, and anyways, we lay off over half of our team, and they lay off over 40% of the staff, just overnight, and for the next 12 months, that's kind of what ended up happening. We ended up filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The beauty of filing for I shouldn't say the beauty, because filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy kind of sucks. But what happens is the number one thing Chapter 11 bankruptcy does for a company is it protects your employees. So that's what it's meant for. Like, all money you get has to go to paying your employees first, and then they go to paying your accounts payable stuff, the stuff that you have to do.
Okay.
And so my CMO pretty much just said, hey, stay with me. We're going to get through this. We've got all these lawyers. If you'll stay with me, you've got even better trajectory and even better opportunity.
Oh, wow.
But over the next 12 months, there just was this, we seriously went from 1,000 employees to, 200 employees to, within 18 months, end of the story. Everyone was gone. The company was completely gone, and I kind of had this hardening in my heart that I said, this company's done so much for me. They love me. But at the end of the day, I can't control anything that they do. And I hated that my family was put in jeopardy because of poor decisions that people I had no idea were making.
Right.
And I went from this, my entire life, 20 years or 18 years of, before I kind of get my own job and whatever. I went for my whole life saying, this is what stability looks like. This is what protection looks like. This is what safety looks like.
Yes.
To that just being completely upended. And I knew right in that moment that the only person I had control over, the only person I could trust was myself. And so if my family was ever going to be in that situation, it was going to be because I made a bad decision, not because somebody else made a bad decision.
Right.
And that's what propelled me to saying it was weird. It was really this calloused. Even my wife was like, you've become a harder person. And it was just that 12 months I stuck around at that company, it just shook me because it shook my entire belief system in how things worked,
Yeah. And the fact that, well, first off, it sounds like a movie. So when you actually said the beginning of it, I was like, wait, I didn't expect that to go there. You were like, the FBI walked in, and I was like, wait, am I in a movie? What is happening? So that
it was a movie.
So, I mean, I would have freaked out. That is but you know what? Hey, this is how things work, and you never know what's going to happen. And the least, you least expect some of these things. So I love that actually is your story, because it's a little bit more interesting than just, waking up one day and I was like, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur. I mean, that's still interesting, but
yeah, for sure.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about, the love for marketing, and especially now how it's shifting from what we used to do probably, and especially you being so high up in these companies, to now the importance of how we're supposed to do marketing now. I love having you on here because we've never really had someone that helps us dissect the importance of marketing. And so I find that where have you seen the biggest shifts in marketing since you become an entrepreneur? Where do you see the biggest shifts happening in the near future, especially in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been interested in marketing for whatever. Well, I actually know exactly why. A guy when I was like 12 years old or 11 years old, my best friend's dad, when he was like 35, all of a sudden didn't ever have to go back to work again. He pretty much just became this stay-at-home dad. They bought this giant house. His dad drove my favorite car, which is a Porsche, and I thought, what does your dad do? And he's like, oh, he does something in marketing. And apparently he had sold some sort of massive marketing agency that put his marketing agency put IBM on the map. So he
Okay.
built IBM
Okay.
and
All right.
and sold his agency for millions and millions of dollars, which doesn't really quite exist that way anymore. You can't really sell agencies for crazy amounts of money that way.
Yeah.
But this was back in the 90s. And so I said, okay, marketing makes money. So that's what I want to do. And ever since then, I knew I wanted to be into marketing. And so yeah, I've been in the space for the last 12 years or so. And marketing's changed a lot. You're probably not going to love like my response to this, but
Yeah.
what I have recognized is we are further with technology than we have ever been in the history of what we know.
Yeah.
Of what we know. I know that you can go back and debate that, like, hey, the Egyptians had better technology than us, and there's
Yeah.
debate for that. But for what we understand and what we have been able to comprehend, we are as far as we've ever come. Right? You got Apple Vision that just came out, where people are literally walking around in the metaverse in New York City, But what I've recognized is in 2024, I'm going back to all of the basics.
Yeah.
Like all the tools, all the things that, the attribution softwares, there's all these things that claim to make marketing easier. But at the end of the day, I'm recognizing that good marketing really comes from just a couple of things.
Okay.
All right. It's having a good product,
Yep.
number one. Right. One of my favorite quotes I ever heard from somebody was actually somebody I interviewed on my podcast. He said, behind every good marketer is a better product and a better brand. Like
Yeah.
that's just it. So product, you just have to have a good product. And in 2024, it's the easiest it's ever been to start a business. I mean, I literally just started a new Shopify account the other day because we're getting so many people who love our swag that I'm like, okay, I'm going to start selling it. And it took
Yeah.
me 30 minutes to build a Shopify site and start a new business and
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, this is crazy. Okay.
Right.
So and then you got like Alibaba, which now gets me directly to China to manufacture whatever I want. And now you got TikTok, where you got manufacturers who are creating content to be like, hey, if you need jewelry, if you need shoes, if you need gum, whatever,
Better.
we'll make
Yeah.
it for you. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's not only never been easier to start a business, but it's also never been easier to find manufacturing,
Yeah.
which like 7 years ago with my first venture was so hard for us. And so, so product, you have to have a product that is good and that stands out, because if you don't, one of the best forms of marketing is other people telling other people about your product.
Yes.
It's the
Okay.
cheapest, best way,
Yep.
right? Where like you're hanging out with your girls or your husband or whatever, and they're like, hey, have you ever like worn that like this? Have you ever seen this vest? This is the best vest I've ever had. I run
Yes.
with it. I
Yeah.
go to the market with it. I go out with my girlfriends with it, whatever. And next thing you know, you're buying 4 of these vests,
Yep.
and you just learned about them from a friend. Okay. So product is number one. Okay. Branding is number two. Build something that has meaning, that stands out, that looks good, that is consistent. It's super, super important, because every single brand nowadays looks the exact same. So
Yep.
just build something that's different. All right. Something that is good and something that is different.
Yep.
And then the third thing is create good content. All right. Like content is everything. I've been media buying, meaning so for those of you, I don't want to patronize any of your listeners, but for those of you who are like, okay, what does media buying mean?
Yeah. Break it down.
Right. I've been running ads on Facebook, Meta, Google, TikTok, right? It's me running ads, buying ads for other clients, for my businesses. And at the end of the day, 7 years ago, you used to be able to tweak things and like change audiences and do this like fun stuff, these different bidding strategies, and it would work and it would up your revenue. That doesn't exist that much anymore. Like Facebook's algorithm has gotten so good that it does all that for you.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that really makes us stand out is good content.
Yes.
It's like that's the end all be all. And then like a subset to good content is just the right message. Like that's it to me. It's like good messaging, good content, which makes a good brand and have a good product. If you can do those things, like marketing is very, very easy for you.
So when you say good content, what could be some examples that you would give them listener wise, especially going into 2024? I mean, do you, with the words and how everybody's saying like authenticity is really getting pushed in 2024, they want to see the real people behind the brands and seeing all that with content and the emotional connection that you have with your consumers. Can you touch a little bit on like what it takes to actually make good content instead of trying to be trending and just throwing shit against a wall and hope it sticks? Can you give us a little bit back on that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, trending stuff was so great in 2020 and 2021, because not everybody had figured that world out. And so you could hit trends and it would work. In fact, I was one of those people. I don't know when you started following me, but I would do some funny, trendy stuff and I'd put my own twist on it in my own authentic way. And now if I do anything like that, nothing works. To me, what I have learned is I'm a millennial. And one thing that us millennials didn't grow up with was phones in our face. Right. Like if I ever took a selfie as a youngster, I would have got punched in the face. Where now that's like
yes,
that's just what you do. In fact, I was at a dinner one Sunday, and I've got some, some cousins who are Gen Z, and I wasn't spying on her, but I was walking behind her and she had her phone out, and I saw a picture of her and she was writing on the picture, and the way she was, and I asked her about it, the way she essentially is texting her friends is through Snapchat. She would take a selfie, right? Like, oh, I'm bored at this Sunday dinner. What are you up to? You know? And I'm like, that's so, Gen Z looks at creating content very different than millennials, right? It's not very awkward for Gen Z, and or at least not as much for as it is for us millennials or boomers or whatever. Because we just weren't, we didn't grow up with cameras in our face. And so what we grew up with was seeing beautiful pictures of products and seeing, destinations of other people, and it was very visual. It was very visually pleasing. It was very desirable, right? Oh, I want that, and somewhat unattainable. But if I work with this company, this brand who's reached this, maybe one day I'll be able to attain it. That's what content creation really looked like for brands like, what we were starting. But nowadays, we're so desensitized to that. We're so desensitized to trends. None of that just makes you blend in when you're doing that kind of stuff.
Okay, good.
That now what people just really want, and this, once again, this goes back to the basics, is just storytelling. Like, people just want to hear stories. Like, you go, like my wife a couple months ago, she went down to Southern Utah, and Southern Utah is known for, there's lots of Indian reservations. There's lots of kind of Anasazi things, really cool stuff. There's hieroglyphics everywhere. And she was staying at this place, and there were hieroglyphics and the people that were talking to were like, oh yeah, this tells this story. And it's like, okay, those are, I don't know, I don't want to say like thousands of years. I have no idea how old they're, but they're so ancient, and they were on walls just telling stories.
Right.
And now when you look at some of them, at me as a consumer, like my favorite content to consume is content that tells a story. And some of these are from brands. It's not just content creators. Like, I'm hearing the stories of like one of my favorite brands to follow is a company called Midday Squares. They're like they claim they're like a functional chocolate. So like a healthier version of chocolate.
Okay.
And it's just three people running this company, and they're trying to take on the Nestle's of the world and these like massive chocolate conglomerate. And they're doing it. Like, they're succeeding because they're just telling everyday stories. And 80% of the videos that they post on Instagram or TikTok have nothing to do with, oh, this is such good chocolate and this is how healthy it is. It's like, it's like a video about how some like hackers hacked their domain and turned it into a porn website. And they tell the story about how that happened and what it did to their business and nothing to do with it. And they're growing this massive following. They've sold over 100 million bars now. They're in all the major distributors, and they're this tiny group of people from Canada. And it's all because they're telling stories that have not a ton of meaning, but they're just entertaining. And people end up falling in love with, the characters of those stories. And then they say, oh, like that's what happened to me. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm a healthy guy. I want to buy functional chocolate. And now, like, me and my wife love those chocolates, but I came in as a consumer because of their content and their stories.
Holy shit, Damn Good Marketing Live 2024 is back. Bigger, better than ever. A 2-day marketing conference that you definitely don't want to miss. For our exclusive insider scoop, tickets will go on sale to the waitlist February 27th through the 29th. And I'll tell you this, the waitlist has already exceeded the spots that we have available for 2024. So if you don't want to take that chance of waiting until tickets go live to the public, I suggest you check out the show notes below, click the link, and get on our waitlist. I'll see you there. Let's freaking get it. I think what happens is, especially with the world of social media, like what you said, we weren't used to consuming so much content, and now we consume so much content. So it's like overwhelm and influx of shit we probably shouldn't be looking at and consuming. And so a lot of times when people are like, I don't even know what to create, Shelby, I don't know what to do or where to start. It goes to the basics of, instead of listening to all these gurus shout from the rooftops of like, you just have to create content, figure it out and like do it. Just go back to the basics. Like you say, every time I try to tell people it's time to get on social media, if you have a product or a service, like this is your new marketing way of doing things, you have to get on board and you have to storytell. It's going back to the basics of what is marketing. It's just a new way of doing it. And if you understand marketing in general, then you're going to be okay with it and you're going to be able to do it. So hearing it from you, especially because like you are like OG marketing to me, because when I watch your content and I consume your content, it's like marketing. It's not, oh, hop on this trend, you have to do this certain way. It's like you just showing up and producing content in a way, in a facet of like what you know and what you're doing. So I definitely respect that in that sense. But it's just, I love when you say like, as millennials, we're not used to this, because we aren't, because I have Gen Zs that work for me. And it's just, we're not used to having a camera in front of our face. But what I love and respect about you is you do it anyway. Like you show up online. I guess what would be my next question to you, because I have so many as you talk, is how has it gotten easier? Has it gotten easier, or you've just adapted to getting used to showing up online and it's just second nature to you at this point?
Yeah, I mean, luckily for me, like the idea of public speaking has never been a debilitating thing. So that's kind of like the two-pronged approach. Like Gen Z, everyone has a public speaking kind of fear.
Yeah.
And then you mix that with the like, hey, I didn't have a camera in my face, and so now you got like two things against you, right? So I luckily didn't have that one thing against you. I more so, when I first started, just felt like I felt stupid of what people were going to think about me. That's more so what I didn't feel like I was going to be like, I've spoken in front of hundreds of people before, and that I've never, like, of course I get a little like, palms are a little sweaty, armpits are a little sweaty, but like you get a little nervous, but nothing that's going to stop me from doing it. But I think for me, when I just kind of had a plan, and like my thing was, I just need to make a plan on how I'm going to do this. I need to carve out time. And I'm going to just I'm just going to commit to it. That was really helpful for me. The other thing that I did, because once again, I didn't have a fear of showing up and people thinking I'm stupid or messing up. I don't care about that stuff. I don't get embarrassed very easy. But I had this like really deep intrinsic fear that my group of friends, like I have a group of friends, like 5 or 6 of us from high school that have stayed in touch our whole lives. And we have this like IG group text, and we pretty much just basically send each other funny videos of some people doing funny stuff, some people doing stupid stuff. And I just had this like fear of one day me creating a piece of content and it going into that channel.
Oh, okay.
And and everyone like being like, what the heck is Trevor doing? You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And so what I did for me was I just created a new account
Wait,
and I
I'm
made a
excited
list
for what
of
you're about to say because I wrote that down and I remember you saying this, but go ahead. I know exactly what you're about to say. Go.
yeah, I just created a new account. And at first I didn't make it my name. So mine was like Digital Trev or something like that.
Yeah,
So it could be anybody. There's lots of Trevors, Trev,
yeah.
whatever. And I wrote a list of everybody that I could think of. So like family members, from like my parents to siblings to cousins to grandparents to like some second cousins. I mean, I went deep. And then
Holy
I went back as far as I could of like people I had seen in the last little bit on a regular basis. Cause
yeah,
I grew up like, 20 minutes from where I lived, like 20 minutes where I grew up.
yeah.
So it's a kind of a small world here. And Utah just is kind of a small world, So I mean, I made a list probably of 100 people plus, and I blocked every one of them. I blocked my mom. I blocked my dad. I blocked my grandma, blocked my second cousin. I blocked old girlfriends from high school. I blocked
Literally
everybody I could
everyone.
think
Yeah.
of. Yeah. And that all of a sudden like gave me permission to like, okay, now I don't have to worry about a single person knowing this. Because if somebody from high school that I haven't talked to for 10 years sees it, like I don't really care too much.
Yeah.
Like I don't care. And that just got me like into creating. So I started creating, and then I said, okay, I'm gonna wake up an hour early. If I was waking up at like I was waking up at like 6:30, so I said I'm gonna start waking up at 5:30 every morning,
Mhm.
and from 5:30 to 6:30, I just get on film and I create content. You know, Taught myself how to edit a little bit videos. Not that I'm good at it, but and I just started cranking out content. It almost gave me permission to be myself, and that was everything. Like that was everything to me. Um, so that was the number one thing that made me like jump into that space. And then like funny, like 6 months later or something like that, I had my first like million view video, and all of a sudden I'm getting people that I completely forgot about, and they're DMing me and they're texting me, "Is this you? What is going
Yeah.
on here?" And the next thing I know, I get a message from my mom. She's like, "Hey, my girlfriends at bowling club just like showed me this video of you. What are you doing? Why can't I not find you?" And and then it was like, "Oh, all right, well, I'll unblock everybody
Well, I guess you can
now."
see me
You
now.
know?
That's
Yeah,
so cool
exactly.
though. I
But
I love that story because I feel like what stops a lot of people, and I like having a perspective from a dude because a lot of people that I talk to on a regular, I was in front of a bunch of guys today and they thought I was crazy because I was talking to them about social media and I was like, you need it. But a lot of times I'm just in front of women and just seeing the perspective of like you still having the fear of you getting not made fun of in a way, well, basically made fun of by your
yeah,
by
yeah.
your younger version friends of you. And like you went in and I remember this story when you told it. It must have been like right after I followed you or something. I saw it somewhere and I was like, you know what? That's actually really smart because a lot of people that I talk to, that is what stops them is what perception of people that they know and what
Totally.
they think. And so I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, we all just have like I don't care how confident of a person you are. Like everyone has imposter syndrome, Like I know that that's like kind of been a overused term in the content creation world, but it's so true, Like everybody has it. I still get it, you know, today. Um, and so you got to find your way, like you got to find a way around it, even if even if like me, I kind of hacked the system to do it, and then it gave me a little bit of confidence,
Yeah.
But yeah.
I guess when you are building such a presence online, I guess what are your tactics of like getting out of your own head when that does happen? Now, being as successful as you are, just letting everyone know that doesn't matter how successful you get, this still happens. Like it's not something that just magically disappears.
It's almost like callous to me at this point, like I'm in a rut, like, anybody who like, happens, if you listen to this and you're like, oh, he sounds interesting, let me go look at him on Instagram. Like you'll see that a lot of like my views right now are down. Like I'm down in views, and I've been, going through a rut of trying to figure out, oh my gosh, like what do I got to do different? And so I'm kind of in that right now. And the good news for me is it's a rut. I don't, it doesn't make me feel good, but I'm calloused enough because I've just put enough, like I'm a huge believer in at bats, right? Like there's that term just like, hey, the more at bats you can get, like Kobe Bryant and MJ, like they were huge into this. It's like they both, I think, missed more shots than they ever made, but they're two of the greatest basketball players to ever live. And like there's just something to at bats, right? Nobody cares if you go 2 for 30 in a basketball game if you hit the game-winning shot.
Yes.
Right? Like nobody cares about that. Like all they care about is that one shot that made you win the game. And so the more, like I was a huge believer in quantity. Like just get out content. Just post as much as you can because it just will give you, like I said, it will give you muscle memory. It'll make you callous to the self-doubt feelings you're going to have. And it's going to come into play. And I'm feeling like I'm reaping the benefits of that right now because I'm in this rut with some of my content. And now you'll see that I'm shifting gears to my content where I'm going to full-blown storyteller mode and I'm going to quality, not quantity anymore.
Right.
Like now I'm going to create really good quality. And when I say quality, I don't mean it's going to be this beautiful production. That's not what I mean.
Right.
I mean, I am writing and rewriting scripts to make sure that the message is coming off the right way that's going to connect with somebody and help somebody in whatever way possible. Whereas before I was just writing a script, I'd put it out there. Sometimes it would hit, sometimes it wouldn't, and I'd just move on.
Yeah.
So I think just your at-bats gives you more confidence 100%.
Yeah. And I just want you to, I feel like, reiterate this. You haven't really said it yet, but I feel like you're going to, is when it comes to social media and it comes to marketing, obviously when you're trying to understand your consumer, and obviously everything keeps evolving as quickly as it's doing. When it comes to marketing and creating content, it's a lot of trial and error. So like a lot of your content's going to hit, a lot of your content's going to flop. That does not mean that you're not good at what you're doing. You're testing the market and testing what the consumers want to see.
Totally. Yeah, totally. I mean, that's 100%, right? Like here's the deal. Like I said, it's all about at-bats, which is true.
Right.
But it's not about at-bats if you don't learn from the mistakes.
Right.
Right. If you're just all about at-bats, but you're not like going back and, like figuring out what worked versus what didn't, then you're not really going to grow and get anywhere. Like you might get like the callus and you might get the, the content creation muscle memory, which is awesome. But if you want to grow and reach more people, you got to kind of have this at-bats mentality as well as the figure out what format is right.
Yeah.
One of the best piece of advice from a content creator I was chatting with, in fact, on our podcast, we were chatting with this gentleman. His name's Ben Zaver. Mm-hmm. He's the founder of a really awesome protein company called Seek Supply.
Okay.
And they're blowing up right now because they've changed their product is just amazing. And he said something. He said, listen, just get content up and figure out which format hits.
Yes.
And then duplicate that format over and over and over again. And then try some other things to see if you can get a second piece of format and a third piece of format, and I just thought it's like it's like a duh moment. Like, well, duh, of course, that's what you should do. But I just I needed somebody to say it. Mm-hmm. And so that's now kind of what that's what, now it's like, okay, what format was working for me at the time? Okay, let's do more of that. And that will help you build a little bit more confidence. But yeah, you're right. Like, it's not like, okay, this is maybe the best way to kind of key in on what you're saying is just because something doesn't hit doesn't mean you're not good or it wasn't good.
Right.
When I first started, I would go deep, right? Like my first goal when I first started was I want to, I ended up getting my master's degree and regretted it because I didn't feel like it did much for me.
Right.
And so I kind of wanted to be like, guys, if you're in marketing, you do not need education. This is what you need to, I wanted to my goal was to help people, who were 5 years ago me.
Yes.
And so I was like, let me tell you, let me teach you. And I was teaching very deep marketing principles.
Yeah.
And they would get no traction. They'd get no views. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, right now I own a consulting business. And when I'm going through that with other people, they pay me thousands of dollars when I'm sitting down in their office and going through this stuff with them because it's so valuable. But then I'm giving a piece of it on social media and it's getting 200 views.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, this is gold content, you know? So don't ever get caught up in like, if it didn't do well, that doesn't mean it's not good. It just means that you're not creating it in the format that people are able to digest it.
Thank you for saying that. Yes. Okay. Yes.
Does that make sense?
That
Like
makes so much sense.
Yeah. And so whether that means, you got to tighten up some of your transitions or you got to dumb it down, right? Like, yeah, I think like I love The Office. I don't know if you guys if you ever watched The Office, but there's this episode where Oscar the accountant goes to Michael Scott, who's the boss, and he says, "Hey, we have a surplus of money. All right. And we need to spend it by the end of the day or else we're not going to get it back." And Michael looks at him and he goes, "Okay, tell me what a surplus is if I'm 12 years old." And he's like, "Well, we have extra money. And if we don't get rid of it, next year they're going to put it on the books that we only spent this much money. And then we're not going to get that much budget next year." And he goes, "Okay, explain it to me as if I'm 5." And he's like, "Okay, your mommy gives you $5 for a lemonade stand and you bring her back $2 because it only costs you $5 or $3 to set up. And so next year when she asks you, hey, when you ask her, I want to set up a lemonade stand, she's not going to give you 5, she's going to give you 3." And he's like, okay. So sometimes you need to like, sometimes it's just dumbing it down. Like I said, maybe it's just an edit. Maybe it's a hook. So it's not even the content. It's maybe just the delivery of the content.
Yeah. And understanding like what your consumer actually can digest. I love that you said that because I say that and people look at me like I have 3 eyeballs. And I'm like, it's really just boils down to, do they like to read? Do they like pictures? Do they like video? Do they like you talking to the camera? Like, are you saying it fast enough? Are you getting to the point? Like, what are they actually digesting from the content that you're creating? And then create more of that.
Yeah.
And so I think what happens is the world of social is, it's just so noisy with what's going on and what people are supposed to be doing that all these consumers that are just trying to do it for them, business owners trying to do it for them as content creators or whatever, they don't know which direction to go in, and especially just like pause and understand that marketing is marketing. And so as you have started all of your businesses, can you hone in a little bit on the importance of like whether you want to be on social media or not, like why it's so essential and important, and maybe touch on the podcast guest that you just recently had of how it literally changed his life overnight when done correctly, or just like the power of social media. Can you give us a little bit on that?
Pre-social media, how were brands connecting with an audience? Oftentimes it was very local. So they didn't have national brands, right? So it's very local. So you had a presence locally. You'd go to events, you'd put signs on billboards or benches or get a local radio spot or whatever. All those things cost money, right? Nowadays, now that things are national, in international, right? If you're just starting a business, marketing's all about distribution, right? Distribution meaning, how do I distribute my message to as many eyeballs
As I can.
of the right eyeballs as I can? And so you just have to ask yourself the question, like, how do you want to do that? And if you've got millions of dollars in funding, you may not have to create content immediately. You could go and buy TV spots and pay for paid ads and whatever, but most people don't fit that category.
Right.
At least most people I work with, most people I know, they don't fit that category. Right? You got to start somewhere. And so, SEO used to be something that was really, I shouldn't say used to. SEO still works, but there's over like, I think I read somewhere that there's over like, like 90 million active blogs out
Yeah.
there, and and maybe even more than that. And so it's so saturated. So the
Yes.
SEO used to be so much easier and so much more impactful if you started a business and you just wrote blogs and you were very
Right.
keyword heavy. But now that's really challenging. Like unless you have a problem solution product or you really know what you're doing in the SEO space, like it's really, really hard. And so where's a place that you can get free distribution? Where is free marketing? All right. And when I say free, I'm meaning monetarily, not time.
Yeah.
Um, and it's social media. You know, it's social media. So social media is what blogs were 10, 15 years ago,
Yeah.
where it was a little easier to write, get some traction, get just website traffic to your website for pretty much nothing.
Right.
And social media can do that for you. And if done right, it can do it in a intensely immense way. So like to give everybody here an example, like, I own and operate a 7-figure marketing agency.
Yeah.
And I've never once, and all we do is run ads for people. And I've never once run ads for my company.
Right.
And it's because all of our business comes from social media. It comes from somebody being like, oh my gosh, I saw a clip from you. And then I saw that you had a podcast. I started listening to your podcast. And then all of a sudden I understood what you I knew you knew what you were talking about. And so I want to work with you,
Yes.
you know?
Yep.
And that's the other cool thing about what social media can do is social media also becomes a piece of social proof
Yep.
for you. So like even if you did just spend a boatload of money on ads or on a TV, everyone goes back to social media profiles. I don't know about you, but like as a consumer, if I'm ever buying something new,
Yes.
right? Like if I will go to their Instagram first, to just be like, okay, what do these guys sell? And
Yes.
I do go look to see if they're posting content. And I look to see if people are engaging with it, and I look to see if they have reviews or good comments or bad comments. And I look at what their follower count is. I know follower count can be very manufactured, so it's not entirely everything I look at, but
Yeah.
I still look at it, And so I think social media at the end of the day, like you can see an ad and you could put hundreds of thousands of dollars into ads, but like if people go back and they don't see you doing anything there, they're going to be like, wait, is this company real?
Oh my God, I
Like,
love that you said that. I truly love that you said that because I have an agency that's just solely on organic social media and like helping people get off the ground and start. And I always say that like you can target anyone with an ad, but if you don't have something to back up, like what you just said, social proof, it looks like it's real. Like nobody's going to trust you enough to convert to a consumer. And you have to have that
totally.
organic base built to actually work. So I actually love that you freaking just said that because it just validates, because I sound like a broken record sometimes saying it, but I think it's so cool to hear, especially someone that has an ads agency to, okay, yeah, we put money behind ads for people, but you built your entire agency on organic social media, which is so freaking cool.
Totally. The other thing about organic is, I mean, I was just talking about this with my business partner today is like, we are getting into 2024 is an election year.
Yeah.
And one of the things that happens in election years is your cost to get in front of new eyeballs from an advertising perspective will increase anywhere from 20 to 40%.
Damn.
Yeah, because I think it's projected that like $10 billion in 2024 will be spent on ads alone for just politicians.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And so it's like this idea around supply and demand, right? So if there's tons and tons and tons and tons of people wanting to advertise demand, what happens to your prices? They
Yep.
go up, right? Just the basic laws of supply and demand. And so that's going to start, we're going to really, like, you really start to see it happen in the last 6 weeks of the, like, before the election,
Yep.
which is like early November, right?
Yep.
And so like starting in September, you're going to see your costs go, or it'll go up big time, but you're probably going to start to see them go up in the summer.
Yeah.
And so, but organic is free.
Yes.
And so normally, just this is the basic laws of marketing, right? Like we've all heard of, well, I shouldn't say we all heard. Have you ever heard of the law of 7? Have you ever heard of the rule of 7 or the law of 7?
Maybe. Tell me.
You probably have, but like maybe not just worded that way. It's
Yeah.
essentially like, hey, somebody has to see or hear about you
Yes.
7 times before they
Okay.
buy,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It's called the rule or the law of 7. And it was invented, if I remember, back in like the 30s when motion pictures were just getting started. And the movie theaters figured out if somebody could see a movie poster 7 times, then they'll come watch it.
Yes.
And so that's kind of like where this kind of idea started, is that nobody sees an ad one time, or very few times somebody sees an ad immediately and doesn't know anything about that company, never been introduced to it, and they make a purchase. So usually when you run ads, people are seeing your ads over and over and over again before they buy.
Yep.
Right? And so if you can be like, if people can be introduced to you organically first,
yes,
and then you retarget those people using ads, you're going to save so much money.
Yes.
On your advertising costs. And you're going to be able to scale so much faster when you are creating content.
Yes.
It's just fact.
Yes.
Over and over again. My best clients are people who have organic presence.
Yes, because also too, a lot of times people say like, I don't want to say the same things over and over and over. Obviously there's different ways to say it, but you have to be in front of your client and or the consumer and tell them what you do multiple times in different facets of like everything, for them to know, understand, to actually convert them to buy. So I love that you said that too, because it doesn't just happen one time, and ads aren't always your friend if you don't have an organic base for them to come back to, because there's a lot of sketchy shit that happens on the internet that could be fake. It could be a fake business.
Totally. Well, yeah, and not only that, but like, yeah, I hear people say that all the time. Like, well, I don't have much to talk about. It's like, you can talk about the same thing over and over and over again. Yeah. Maybe just find another way to say it. Like, guess what? If you have 100,000 followers, there's not a chance that even 90%, usually not even 90% of those people will ever see your content that you post. Like, at least every piece of content you post, you know? So you can say the same thing over and over again. You really can, you know? Like, now don't just have the same video on repeat, you know, like I said, you know, but don't fear telling the same story, you know? Like, you're going to be all right.
Yeah, I'm not just saying this because you're on here, but I love, truly, it's like very chill vibe with you talking about marketing that makes my brain work. And it's like, wow, I actually do know a little bit of what I'm talking about, but I'm also learning at the same time. And people don't necessarily look at marketing as super important, I guess. Let me say that lightly, I guess. Some people it'll be their first budget to cut when shit hits the fan. And so I love like how bringing you on is like talking about the importance of, you need it in your business in order to be successful. So you have to really have a good product and service, but you also have to have good marketing to back it up, to help it get in front of eyeballs for them to see. I guess going into, as we wrap up, my last question for you is, tell me a little bit about, or how you feel strongly about, the importance of investing in marketing when you own a business, no matter what it is that you do, whether you invest in an outsource, a third party, or you hire someone in-house, but you solely need to have someone or like an agency dedicated to your marketing.
So yeah, like, you know, that's the beauty of working with an agency, is because like, if, you know, you're working on an account and somebody's like down, you can go over to the other accounts and say like, oh, hey, they're down too. Don't worry about it. It's not a you thing. Or, hey, it is a you thing. Or, hey, you know what such and such person's doing? It's crushing it, and they're in the same industry as you. You should do those things. So that's why I'm a huge proponent of like working with an outsourced agencies, because it's a little cheaper and you get overall expertise, you know? But at the end of the day, like, to really fully answer your question, the importance of marketing, like, to me, my definition of marketing is very simple, which is, it is just getting distribution to whatever your product solution is. All right. And so whether that's creating content organically, whether that's running paid ads, like, that's marketing. Yesterday, like, I went to an event. I didn't sponsor the event. And I went and got like 3 or 4 potential new clients because I just went and talked to people. So it's like, that is a form of marketing, because I'm marketing myself, which is marketing my businesses, you know? So like, there are a select few products out there that the product alone sells itself, meaning somebody gets it, it changes their life, right, forever, and then the rest of the world tells everybody about it. But even then, that's marketing. So you invested in creating a really good product that markets itself. It's called product market fit, right? So yeah, like if you're not marketing, that's why you're not growing, probably.
I love that perspective too, because I used to work in the oil and gas industry. So the first thing that they slashed is marketing, but it's humorous because now I have clients that are in the oil and gas industry too. So I will say I just love having conversations with someone that also believes in marketing because I think it's huge component of your business that you need. And I too obviously have my own agency that's obviously organic based, but I love the agency route too for people because it's that outsider's perspective that studies what it is to be successful in marketing
Yeah.
on these platforms. And we constantly are evolving with the platforms and doing it, with them. But last question for you, because I know it's kind of a stretch, but I'm enjoying having this conversation with you. Where
Yeah,
did
for sure.
Bestie come from? How did you name your business?
Uh, to be honest with you, I wanted something fun and just simple. There's so much technology, like a lot of tech companies.
Yeah.
Um, they're just like boring. Like they're boring. They create boring merch, and I thought, my whole life, my last little bit, I've been dealing with e-commerce brands. I've been dealing with direct to consumer brands, like really cool brands that you want to be associated with,
Yeah.
right? Like people don't want to be associated with, you know, Microsoft. They
Yeah.
want to be associated with Nike,
Yes.
you know. Um, Even Apple, like people like to be associated with that brand, but like I wanted this like visual, like I wanted to build a company that like people looked at it and didn't see it as a tech company.
Yes.
And so I was like, we have to have something like really simple, and we just have to have something fun, and it has to be cool. And to be honest with you, I was just in the shower and I thought of it. Like all of a sudden I was like, I was toying with like BFF. Like BFF was, best friends for, I was like thinking this kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden Bestie came to mind. I was like, that's gotta be it. Like
That's it.
Bestie. And then what's really cool about Bestie is like, it had a double meaning, right? Not only is it, cool, but it's like, we help you figure out who your besties are, who your
I
best
love that.
customers are, right? Like, so that's
Yeah.
like, so like our tagline is like, have you talked to your bestie yet? You know? And it's like brands need to be talking to their customers. Like
Yeah.
that's another like little gem. This is not a plug for anybody to use Bestie, whatever. This is just a plug for anybody in life. If you want to win in 2024, start talking to the customers. Pick up a phone. Why are they shopping with you? How did they figure out who you were? Why are they sticking around? What problems do they have? Like if you talk to your customers, you will grow in 2024. If you don't talk to your customers, then your competitors are going to, and you're not going to grow in 2024.
Yes.
So that's what we're like. I mean, that's like my big thing right now is like, I just want people to pick up phones, email their customers. You just learn from them.
It's really good. Like I actually love asking for feedback and having a good conversation. Like, why are you here? What did we mess up on? Did we do something good? Like you need all of that information in order to be better as a business owner, as a human, pushing out customer experience, content creation, all of that. So like I tell everyone, even my clients, I'm like, you need to just welcome all types of feedback. So
Totally. Yeah, 100%.
anyway, I want to thank you so much for being here. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. I love talking marketing, so I was like, I could talk to him forever. I have so many questions that we didn't call, but I'll have you back on anyway. But
Part two.
we will put everything in the show notes for you guys to follow. Go get some merch. I mean, now please tell me you have a sweatshirt.
We do, actually.
I have an obsession with sweatshirts, so I literally have an entire row in my closet. They hang; they don't even go in a drawer because I'm
Look at
obsessed with sweatshirts. So I'm gonna definitely be purchasing a sweatshirt to rock for you.
Here we go. There's one right there.
Oh my God, I love that. Shut up. That's so good.
But yeah,
That's
we'll launch the swag site here in a little bit. Hopefully, maybe in like the next like week to 10 days, probably.
oh, cool. So by the time this hits, everybody will know where to go get swag if you want,
Nice.
swag. All right, cool.
Bestie.ai. There you go.
Thanks, Trevor. I really appreciate you being here. And everyone just go follow him because he's
I
awesome.
appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
If you like this episode, please comment, share, leave us a review. And until next time, let's freaking get it. And that's a wrap on another episode of Damn Good Content Podcast. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, comment, leave us a review. And until next week, let's freaking get it.